So, Ms. Watson-Lord, are you prepared to begin with the minutes? Linda? Linda, can you hear me?
Yeah, they warranted the minutes for the last meeting. He didn't share them with me. Remember, I couldn't get in.
Right. No. I mean, are you prepared for minutes for this meeting?
Yes.
Take minutes. Oh,
Good. I'm
okay,
ready.
perfect. All right. So we are now going to call the meeting to order. The time is now 7:18. I want to thank everyone for joining us for our executive committee meeting for March 2022. Again, let me begin with my apologies for technical difficulties for me getting on late as well, and for your patience. But we're going to jump right into the agenda. So item number 2 would be public comment. I'm not sure if we have anyone who's on for public comment.
We did not have anyone sign up in the office for public comment, but as you see, Suki's hand is raised.
I do see that. Okay. Are there is there anyone else who would like to? So Suki, I see you. We're going to recognize you in one moment. Is there anyone else who would like to do public commentary at this time? Okay, seeing none. All right, so Suki, we're going to take you for your 3 minutes of public commentary.
It's not 3 minutes. I just wanted to say that at our ULURP committee meeting last week, we had a fairly long discussion about neighborhood planning. And one thing that we realized is that we really need to be able to talk to the other committees about what they're doing. Whether it's housing or economic development or environment or transportation, because all of these issues really feed into what we do as a land use committee. It shouldn't really be about the zoning is there to kind of facilitate what our other needs are, or to deal with what the problems might be. So I'm just here to sort of hear what's going on with the other and I think Nicola had asked if there was an occasion where we could all get together and talk. And Pat basically said, well, that's the executive committee meeting. So I'm just here to listen and find out what's going on.
Understood. Okay. All right, and actually, Pat is correct. So really, the executive committee is the opportunity to hear from what's going on with those. But absolutely, we encourage cooperation and cross-pollination between the committees as well, especially as they're doing any of their activities or if there's any planning, larger scale planning that would like to be done as well. But definitely, we're looking forward to comments, and hopefully, you'll get some information from the other committees in terms of some of the initiatives that they're taking on. And if we see something where we should have perhaps multiple committees working together, we'll definitely try and make sure we put that together as well. But thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Okay. All right. Dante, is there anyone else who would like to do public commentary at this time before we move on the agenda?
I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay. Understanding the technical difficulties, we'll try if we do have time, and if it's appropriate at the time, we'll see if there's other people we can recognize as well. But at this time, we are now going to move on in the agenda. We're going to go to the committee chair check-ins. At this time, Christian, just because I see you first on my right-hand side, let's pick on you today. You have a report for environmental protection.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Yeah, I can't hear you. Okay, I understand. He's saying just go ahead and he's got to fix his audio.
Okay, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you then. All right. And just because I like to pick on him as well, Mr. Almanor, do you have a report for Parks, Recreation, and Culture?
Yes, I do. I just submitted the minutes for the last meeting, and now we are planning for our next meeting not to have any guests and to put together a plan for different activities for the rest of the season. One of them is coming from the last meeting we had with PLG Arts. We want to put together a program called Arts in the Schoolyards. So we're going to get together with PLG Arts and devise and plan a series of activities in schoolyards from now through the summer, if possible. And we got also, we are updated on the various activities at the major cultural institution that affects CB9 now, the Prospect Park Alliance, the Brooklyn Museum, the community gardens. I've been working between the last minute to try to get someone to become part of the committee to keep the committee informed on recreational sports activities within the district. I've reached to a lot of people, from famous Coach Screen. I've reached to people from Elite Learner and the board president's office. Somebody from there supposed to call me, but I'm putting the call out. And I think there was a lady, I think Marilyn the chef, that was at the youth committee, and that's somebody I tried to reach for her. I think I got a wrong email address because she mentioned somebody who knows all the different basketball activities going in the district. So if you or anyone knows somebody who's really interested in sports for both young and old, to see if you could join our committee. So my idea for that in terms of recreation is to do an inter-park championship. So I'm looking for somebody that could take that mantle and carry it over. I'm a swimmer, but I'm not a basketball player. So, and hopefully, and within that scope, I want also to include the Major Owens Wellness Center in the term of that. So I know, I think Ms. Beverly knew some of you are part of the board of,
Thank you.
of the Major Owens. So anyone that could join the committee and explain those activities, please let me know. Okay, so either a board member or a resident member that could go on a regular basis and let us know what's going on. Okay, that's the extent of my report, and most of the other details can be found into the minutes of the committee that's already been submitted to the board.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Almanor. All right, at this time, are there any questions for the Chair of Parks, Recreation, and Culture? We'll entertain a couple of questions. Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Almanor, for your report. At this time, Ms. Newsom, do you have a report for housing? Beverly, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hey, I couldn't unmute myself. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Housing, we just discussed, good evening, everyone. At housing, two things. We had a presenter and she was really popular, so people had lots of questions for her. We talked about setting up our listserv for, it was going to begin with everyone who was at the meeting, at our last meeting, because we realized that, and I don't know if we've discussed it before in this forum, but we realized that some of the topics that we need to hash out, an hour is not enough time. So Dante is helping us create a listserv to hash out. One of the things that's going to be hashed out is cease and desist before we bring it to the broader board or the broader community, because we are going to work on putting it in an activity, whether it's a presentation or whether it be a town hall. Because remember, we are working on a town hall for affordable housing. So we haven't decided yet whether cease and desist was going to be just a presentation done in the housing meeting and elaborated in that form, or if it was going to be part of a town hall. So, but we need to start with a listserv to hash it out, because the hours just is not long enough to do many of the housing topics. So those were the two things that happened during the housing meeting.
Okay, thank you very much for your report, Beverly.
You're welcome.
Hold on one second. Hold on, before you go. At this time, are there any questions for the housing chair? We can take a couple of questions, if any. Okay, seeing none.
But
Okay, Beverly, thank you very much. Oh,
one more comment, Fred. Sorry.
sure.
Our presenter, her name was dang, how did it get up my mind just that fast? Miss Nicholson. Miss Nicholson. And she was we've already issued her another invitation. She's open to it, and this time because her and her sister run a legal business in housing. So it will probably won't be this season, but you could see her pop up in any of our other events if she's in agreement. So I wanted to put that out there too.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Next, we're going to go on to, I see Carmen. Carmen, do you have a report for transportation?
Sorry, trying to unmute.
No worries.
I really don't. I mean, transportation doesn't really have a major report. What we did was we did get a update from DDC regarding the Empire Washington Franklin construction project that seemed to have stalled mainly due to weather conditions and things of that nature. So Alexandra Gurgis, who had not been to our committee meeting in months, did attend that meeting and gave us update. And it's our understanding that because of the unforeseen, weather and everything else that has taken place, while the project was due to have been completed in January past, now it seems like they're looking at October uh, for that project to be completed. So right now, what they're doing is doing all of the sewer reconstruction. So that's why you guys, if anybody drive around that area, they see all of the diggings from all over Washington up to Sullivan, in front of McDonald. All of that is being dug out for new sewer piping. So hopefully, it will stay on course. And I mean, it's going to be kind of horrible during the summer months with all that turmoil going on. But hopefully, they're able to go ahead and complete the project in October. And other than that, we just trying to figure out what our participation, our role is going to be on the CB9, what is the fair outreach. So we just trying to figure out what kind of transportation material or presentation or guest or whatever we'll have at our table. Other than that, that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Carmen. Before you hang up, before you mute, are there any questions for the transportation chair? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, Carmen, for your report then.
No problem. I'm here if anybody think of anything.
Perfect. All right. I do see
I just
chair of.
pose a question to Carmen, please. The people on I don't know if I missed it if she said it because
Which one? What was it, Francisco?
I said I don't know if you mentioned it in your presentation. The Lefferts Avenue, Bedford and Washington. They've been texting me, asking me and any updates on the speed bumps. Last night I was out there and the gentleman, they were saying they have kids, and the weather is getting better and they go out there with scooters and stuff. So they are really concerned, because they said they've been hearing from us that the speed bump was approved, and then they've been calling and quite a bit of them have been calling and they haven't heard anything. So I told them that I will touch base with you to see what report we have for them.
Well, I mean, we really don't have a report on that because, and you might actually remember, there is a discrepancy with regard to the approval and disapproval of the speed hump. I know they
Mhm.
have an approval dating back to 2013, but then there's a later disapproval from the borough commissioner, and then the speed camera were installed in lieu of a speed hump. However, recently it seems that they approved speed hump for lepers between Nostrand and New York. There was an email, I think, that came that was shared with me, which led me to again wonder and want to inquire as to how is it that it seems like they are approving speed hump on lepers between every street other than Washington and Bedford without any legitimate explanation. It's still the same street, it's still a two-way, it's still the same traffic, but it looks like they don't have any problem approving anything above Bedford Avenue. So that's something that I will be inquiring and want to, because the approval letter just came recently into the community board, as to why it is that they have such a hard time in addressing the situation on Lefferts between Washington and Bedford. Instead of a pump, they put speed camera. So they cannot say that it's an emergency thoroughfare because it's the same Lefferts. It has no turns. It has no inlet outlet. It's just straight Lefferts. So and again, as I said, and I think you was at the meeting. Yes, they approved in 2013 from Polly, the previous commissioner, and then recently the new a recent inquiry was denied. So there is an approval, and then there was a denial. There was an approval that they claim was pending board 9 letter of support, and then when the new inquiry was submitted, then it was like, oh well, we investigated. It doesn't meet the requirements. So there's discrepancy right now when it comes to what exactly is the situation with Lefferts between Washington and Bedford.
So one of the residents told me, just as you mentioned, that is an emergency thoroughfare, and then they wanted the street remain so that fire trucks and ambulances would go, in case of an emergency. I said, well, so what happened to Bedford and Rogers, and what happened to Rogers and Nostrand? They installed speed bumps there. So what's the big difference? So
Well,
it is something that we
and
have
it
to
goes
visit.
back to what I said. They cannot say that it's
Yeah,
an emergency route because the only
exactly.
block that's not going to have speed bump so far, it
Mhm.
seems to be Bedford and Washington. So unless there's a hospital on that block, which there isn't, or around the corner, which there isn't, how can that block itself be rated or whatever an emergency route? Because if an ambulance
So
is coming, it's either going to come down from Kingsbrook or Kings County Hospital. It's going to come down Lefferts, and if it's going to any of those hospitals, it's going to go up Lefferts. So how can they encounter bumps above Bedford and be okay with that? But there's a problem of them encountering bumps on one block, just one block, which is from Bedford to Rogers. So it seems to be a bigger issue than that.
yeah, so they are ready. They said, hey, anything we need to do, who can we call? We are ready to bombard them with calls. We want the speed bumps, but we are concerned about our family. And quite a few accidents down there. Persons have hit almost a whole row of cars, and one lady got, injured down there. So they really do need the speed bumps. So they are ready to do whatever it takes to get the speed bumps. So
All right.
I
Well,
told them I'd get back to them.
okay.
Okay.
Like I said,
All
I'll
right.
make the inquiry, and when it comes time for the transportation committee, hopefully we'll have an update to provide at that time.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, Beverly, I do see your hand, so we'll recognize your question, and then we're going to move on.
So just to add to your argument, Carmen, we requested a speed bump between Bedford and Sullivan. I'm sorry, Bedford and McKeever on Sullivan Place. And it happened just the way you said, that they said it wasn't warranted. They've done research. When people are using it as a raceway coming from Nostrand Avenue to Washington Avenue, they said it wasn't warranted. So I'm in agreement. I don't understand why we can't have one, and there's a school sitting on the corner, 3 schools, because 2 schools are co-located in Jackie Robinson Middle School. So that can add to your argument, please. I'd
Yeah,
appreciate it.
and let me just add that the fact that they added a speed camera leads me to believe that they are aware that there is speeding on Lefferts, and that's why they say, "Oh, you know what? We're putting a speed camera to you know, slow down the traffic." But in the meantime, somehow the speed hump is something that they are just not. It seems like they're just not willing to do.
But
So
a
thank
speed
you.
hump is the only thing that makes cars actually slow down. A
Well,
speed
fly up
camera
in
is
the
you
air
just
and come back
watching.
down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So please add that to your argument, Carmen. We'd
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that, and we'll make sure we're following up with respect to the applications. I want to say we actually had a request in to get the status of all the applications that have been in. So Dante, if you could just follow up later on the status of that, so we can really get an understanding of all the applications that are out and where they stand at this time.
Okay, yes, I will do that.
Much appreciated. Okay, all right, at this time, I see the Chair of Youth Services. Primo, do you have a report?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been having some trouble with WebEx today, so if it crashes, apologies, and just move on to the next person. Yeah, so what's going on with youth services? So I want to start out by thanking Melanie Lewis for inviting us to join the Education Committee's most recent meeting where they hosted Superintendent Lindsay, who oversees the District 17. It was a great conversation and it really fascinating to see what some of the priorities are in the district. I think we're going to have, hopefully a long history of collaboration. I think it speaks a lot about the superintendent that she came to a community board meeting and, kind of fielded questions from the committee as well as spoke about the priorities in the district. She has a very big job and is a very impressive educator. Moving on to the fair, I think, that's what we're most excited about and what the committee has been spending its most of its time talking about. We're really at the phase where we're now putting together outreach since we have a date. And so looking for vendors, hopefully around 10 to 15 vendors who can attend. We'll be also reaching out to youth via churches, schools, the superintendent. And then, I'd say like the other part is that we've had some new members of the committee who have also brought some great energy. I've been pushing my committee in particular to apply for the community board. Fred, I don't know if you ever got anything about those extended application deadlines or if, there are any, but somebody missed the deadline and was really intent on applying. And then the last piece that I would mention is that we are going to be pushing the SYEP applications, which are due on April 15th. And there's, about 100,000 slots available. We also had a presenter at our most recent committee meeting from CAMBA with a particular focus on LGBTQ youth in the community and ways that they can reach them and support them. So it's been a robust few weeks. I see Dante coming onto camera. Dante, did you want to say anything? You're on mute.
Sorry, I was attempting to help Warren get on. Is there a specific question for me?
No, I just saw you come onto camera, so I figured you wanted to say something, but no questions for you.
Perfect. Now, I will do everything I need to do in my report.
Awesome. So that's where we are with youth services. I think one thing that we could, of course, use that probably everybody else could use is a location for the fair. And we just want to put together materials for outreach, and it would be great if we had a location because it's hard to, advertise to both school communities, student communities, and vendors if we don't have a location. And that's it.
No. Okay, thank you very much. And absolutely understood. And we'll discuss a little bit more about the fair. but just in advance, just to say that one of the things we want to make sure is that everyone kind of gives us an idea of what their expectations are, because we're looking at a couple of different locations. So depending on the size, the scope, how many people we're talking about bringing in, the resources, there are some locations that might be preferable to others, but that's part of the reason why we're going to need everyone to respond to Dante's request to submit the budget forms and to let us know how many vendors you might be anticipating so we can, confirm the spaces. But thank you for that. And we'll also talk some more about that as well later on in the agenda. But thank you for your report. Are there any questions for the Chair of Youth Services? Going once, going twice. Thank you very much, Primo. Appreciate it. Okay. Next, I see.
Christian? Oh, he gone.
Oh, okay, Christian, I do see you. Are you good right now?
I think so. Can you hear me?
I think Linda had a question, I think.
Oh, I was telling the chair, Christian looks like he's ready.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Okay. All right, so with that being said, Chris, thank you very much. The Chair of Environmental Protection, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thanks, Chair, and good to see everyone and hear everyone. Two updates from our committee. So last week on Tuesday, we passed a series of recommendations to be included in a letter to our council members. This is something that I originally shared with the CB9 General Board in a meeting 2 months ago, and there was a lot of feedback. We took on that feedback, including things like parking considerations and additional consultations with the DSNY Superintendent, Thomas Rice, and even just more clarity on the locations for some of these on-street containers. And we've come back, and then in the process, at the same time, we got 2 new committee members who added some additional ideas. And so what we've come up with now is a proposal, a sanitation proposal to help address the issues related to sanitation, the cleanliness in our neighborhoods, the garbage pickup, the trucks, the amount of trucks that are in our neighborhood. And there are 5 key recommendations that would go in this letter. The content of the letter we already have drafted, but if this were to come from CB9, then I imagine the content might change, but the 5 recommendations we would like to stay the same, and we're really looking for the support of the executive board. So the first recommendation is that our council members provide immediate funding and a budget for additional trash receptacles in our community. And we have a picture of what type of receptacles we are looking for. These are receptacles that already exist in certain corners of our community, but we have a picture that we would show council members just to be specific. The second thing is, and this came from 2 of our new committee members, we would like to request that the Department of Sanitation fully enforce the regulations for residences and commercial properties to regularly clean their sidewalks and the area extending 18 inches into the street. So that's number 2. The third recommendation is that our district would, similar to a district in Manhattan and Chelsea and the Upper West Side, that our district would pilot an on-street containerized trash pickup for commercial waste, primarily in commercial corridors. Let me explain what that means. Along Flatbush, Empire Boulevard, Nostrand, and other main commercial corridors in our district, each business has a separate private contracting company that comes and picks up their trash. That leads to more trucks in our neighborhoods, more pollution in our neighborhoods, and more traffic in our neighborhoods. But it also, the way that our businesses put out the trash, they put it out on the sidewalk. So for those of our neighbors who walk with a cane, or for those of our neighbors who push a baby stroller, the sidewalks are a little bit more crowded because of the way that we manage garbage. We got this idea from the council member in Manhattan, but this is also an idea that's been implemented around the world in places like Argentina and Spain. We've just adapted it for our district. And what it would look like is on-street containerized trash, where these trash should be located in commercial avenues, the ones I mentioned, primarily Flatbush, Empire Boulevard, Nostrand. And this would remove the trash from the sidewalks and allow all businesses to put their trash in one single container on the block. So that's the third recommendation. The fourth recommendation is very much tied to the third one, and that is just simply expressing support for the implementation of Local Law 199. This came from the Department of Sanitation, our local superintendent, Thomas Rice. Local Law 199, in short, would establish commercial waste zones. So instead of having multiple trucks come in our neighborhood, multiple private companies come in to pick up the trash would be zoned, and we would have just one company coming to pick up all the trash in that specific neighborhood. So it would reduce the amount of traffic in the neighborhood, reduce the amount of trucks, and reduce the amount of pollution. This law has already been passed. It was passed by City Council in December of 2019, and the world ended with COVID 2 months later, and it just has not been implemented. But there's a lot of support for this law, and we would just like to echo. Finally, the fifth recommendation is just simply to enforce existing alternate street side parking rules. And that what that looks like is 1 or 2 days of the week, depending on your block, not going back to 2 or 4 days a week, but just 1 or 2 days a week on your block, where folks are moving their cars so that the street sweepers can come through so that the trash can get picked up. So those are the 5 recommendations. Again, this is a pretty comprehensive letter regarding the sanitation issues in our community, and our committee feels like this is a real crisis and that it's now worse than ever before, in part because of the businesses that are setting up stands on the street and allowing people to eat on the street, but also in part because of the plethora of construction in our neighborhoods and the amount of newer buildings that are coming in that are replacing older homes and now contributing to more trash. So I'll stop there, and I'm happy to take questions and comments.
Okay, absolutely. At this time, yeah, if we could raise our hands and we'll create a speakers list so that way we can have questions for the Environmental Protection Chair, especially there's some recommendations that are being proposed at this time. Beverly, I do see you. Hold on 1 second. We'll get to you. Are there any other questions for? All right. I will put myself down. Actually, I do have a couple of questions. Okay, Beverly, go ahead. You have the floor.
Christian, it sounds like you guys gave this a lot of thought, but one spot where that's going to sit in the street, where cafes are already taking up parking spaces with their outdoor spacing, that makes us lose even more parking spaces. And businesses, how are the location of the trash pickups going to be decided? Because you said just one spot on the street. So those are 2 questions. Has the loss of parking been considered? Secondly, how will the one spot pickup be decided? Who will decide it? And now it means that you'll have trash companies jockeying for contracts with the city when the city has DSNY. So has that been given any consideration as well?
Thanks, Beverly, for your questions. I just want to make sure I understood them well. So one of them is about the location of the on-street containers. Another one is about the parking, and then another one is about contracts for the pickup. Did I hear you well?
Yes, when the city has DSNY.
Okay, those are great questions. So in terms of the pickup and the contracts, DSNY does not pick up trash from commercial businesses. It's only private companies that pick up trash from commercial businesses. And part of local law 199, which this letter would simply support the implementation of the law, part of local law 199 says that 3 companies would have the opportunity to bid on these contracts for every district. And then the district would choose one of those 3 companies to come and pick up the trash in all those neighborhoods. But it would not be trash that DSNY is picking up because they don't pick it up already, and they wouldn't start.
Christian, wouldn't that mean that quite a few businesses would be losing business in this area?
What do you mean by losing?
Quite a few sanitation, because if each, let's just say 5 restaurants pick your sanitation company and 5 on Flatbush pick mine and 5 more pick Carmen's, it's going to be narrowed down to just 1. So that means 2 sanitation companies are going to not be doing business. They're going to be losing revenue. Yes.
Sorry. So it wouldn't be done by avenue. It would be done by the neighborhood or the district. So it would be 1 company for the entire district or the entire neighborhood.
That's a lot of business loss, Christian.
If I could chime in as well, I'm not sure. I definitely understand the impact, but it's not that severe. There are only a certain number of actual contractors who do it, and I think the idea would have been that they would have split the contract. So it's like this company, say there's 6 or 7 of them. This one will have this district, this one will have this district, and so on and so forth. So it's just a matter of whoever's zoned for the district would actually get that contract and have that. At least that's my understanding, but we can definitely get clarification. And Chris, we can work on that with Dante, and we can probably get clarification on how that process works.
Because that would be really helpful.
Oh, I'm sorry, Beverly. Hi, it's Warren. I can give you clarification. This happened a couple of years ago. The genesis of this was threefold. The first is that the carting companies having business in all 5 boroughs were shooting around from borough to borough to borough. All right. And that was just not economically or environmentally correct. Number 2, there were a number of, at that point, of garbage trucks killing people, bicyclists and pedestrians. That was the other stimulus. The third thing is that, and Beverly, I'm not, I don't know, what I understood was that the carting companies and the city would divide the areas. So while a carting company could lose business in Crown Heights, they can make it up in Long Island City, something like that. But that was the whole genesis for this, and it was passed. And I am sure that the carting companies are lobbying like hell not for it to happen. Ooh, and the 4th point is the workers for the carting companies were so overworked, all right, that there were a lot of errors happening. So that's my recollection. Thank you.
One other point to Beverly's question about the parking. Initially, when we considered this proposal, it really the genesis of this proposal stemmed from the large buildings in our neighborhoods that put out a lot of trash and the way that they put out the trash. But after consulting with CB9 and the general board meeting, we understood the community's concerns about a loss of parking in residential areas. And so we refined the proposal to say that this on-street containerized trash would be primarily in commercial avenues, commercial areas.
Okay. Suki, I do see your hand. Go ahead.
That's why you're saying that?
Sorry?
Christian, are you saying that because on commercial avenues, street parking is limited?
Well, we understood the concerns of our community in the general board meeting to be that folks didn't want to lose parking in front of their house where they're parking multiple times a day. So we shifted the proposal to focus then on an on-street container that would be in a commercial area, because a lot of us are walking to some of these commercial districts or taking the train or riding our bicycle. But we thought that the way to minimize the impact on parking would be to shift it to commercial areas.
And if I could, I
Okay.
think one of my understandings from some of the conversations I overheard was the fact that I think it's also because it's containerized, you know, especially with the issues of rats and all kinds of other stuff that's going on, by having all the commercial businesses put it in a container, that container gets serviced and hopefully it takes a lot of that stuff off the street, so it eliminates some of the other problems we've had with, you know, the commercial waste.
Hey, it's Warren again. Hey, Chris, has your committee considered what's going on with the outside dining venues based on the, I guess, the recent law that was passed?
Sorry, Warren, you broke up. Has our committee considered what's going on with what? I'm sorry.
The on street, the outside dining venues.
That's something that, to be honest, we didn't discuss that too much. Not in our.
Okay, well, you may want to bring it up because they're very dirty. There's a lot of dilapidated ones, and they're dangerous. And
Yeah,
I believe under the new law that was passed, that those need to be identified. So that would be a great thing for you guys to do.
Okay. That is being discussed, actually, I understand. It's in council right now. I believe it went through committee and it was approved. That is being discussed by the city council. So that if that is something that the board wishes to consider, and Chris, you know, you can bring it up to your committee as something that you want to start working on that and develop a recommendation. Definitely welcome, but it's got to be quick though, because I think it's really moved. Okay, and with that, and I apologize, Suki, I know I had you on the list. We skipped you. So Suki will take your question and then we will move on. And Chris, we will come back in the agenda and we will discuss as an executive committee if we're going to adopt the recommendations or if there are any changes we would like to see in that. But we'll have that discussion shortly. Okay, Suki, I apologize. You have the floor.
Yeah, hey, Chris. It's interesting that you mentioned the Manhattan council member whose idea this was about the street containers, because I just saw an article in AM New York today saying that he had gotten additional funding for his district to do additional litter basket pickups, which is kind of like the traditional solution that's often put out for districts that have commercial districts that have a lot of trash because they have heavy foot traffic, which is definitely true in our commercial corridors. So I'm wondering if he's really going for this street trash thing, or if he's just getting more money for his district. Because that was actually something that we had for a while. We had extra trash pickups and they were cut. We also had the ACE street cleaning. I think that was funded by the previous council member with his discretionary budget. That was cut during the pandemic, and things definitely went downhill during the pandemic. I would say I live close to Flatbush Avenue. I shop there a lot. There is definitely this problem with the big buildings of like there being sort of like a wall of trash in front of the buildings. The other thing though to note is the biggest buildings actually have like how do you say this, like driveways into the area, right? So they're actually capable of having like a commercial service come to the back and take out containers. Like that's what office buildings usually do in my experience. They'll like there's like an area at the back where the commercial service comes and they take out those big garbage containers and then dispose of them or whatever. I mean, I think right now the residential buildings have DSNY pickup, but like I think that from now on they're all being required, like 250 units and above are all, or 150 units and above are all being required to have some sort of plan filed for how they're going to manage garbage. So like that could be an option to discuss with them. Like the little buildings that have like they're like mixed. They have tenants that are putting out garbage incorrectly. They had merchants that some of them stopped. Maybe they stopped paying for their commercial garbage pickup during the pandemic or whatever. I totally agree with you that people just need to get back to doing what they're supposed to do, like putting out the garbage correctly, you know, whatever, having their service. If I, you know, like if it's one street container, I don't know how they're going to split the cost of it. I guess, I don't know if you've talked to them. And then the final thing is, I remember like we had talked about this, like people have talked about this container idea before, not necessarily in the street, but maybe on the sidewalk. And sanitation said no, because they said rats are going to hide in the containers. So I'm just wondering if you had any discussions with sanitation about whether they approve of this method of doing things. That's all I do.
Muted, Christian.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thanks, Suki, for your comments and your question. Yeah, we talked to Superintendent Thomas Rice about it, and he really liked the idea. He thought it would be helpful. He just said that it's important, though, that there's a commercial waste zone that's established so that all the commercial businesses are putting their trash in one container. And he mentioned that that actually was something that has already been established in local law 199, but it just hasn't been implemented yet. So in terms of the on-site containers themselves, there's different ways one can do it. You can do it in a way in which the containers are above ground, but I've also seen it be done in other countries where the containers are below ground. And so you don't even see the containers. It's just folks will come out, open up the container, put their trash in, and then close it.
So, I mean, I'm just wondering again, you know, like to Beverly's point, there's obviously a trade-off here with putting them in the parking lanes. Did you consider having just like bigger containers on the sidewalk, more containers, whatever? And, you know, is there a reason that we're not considering just bigger trash cans on the sidewalks? Or because that's part of the problem too, right? Like the business will put out their garbage and then residents will come and they'll put out their garbage and the garbage cans are overflowing and everyone tends to use the public garbage can. So like maybe just bigger garbage cans, maybe like if there are people that want, like the homeowners will we'll wheel our little rubber garbage cans out to the curb. Like, is there a reason that the buildings on the avenues can't do that as well? Some of them are not that big.
Yeah, we did think about larger garbage cans, and that's actually the second recommendation that our committee has and agreed to that I'd like to discuss just after this.
Okay.
So that's something that would complement this proposal, but not replace it.
I mean, I'm just wondering what's really behind this desire to put them in the street, because it's not obvious to me. Like, you know, like I said, this idea of containerization has been discussed a lot, but this is the first time it's ever been discussed as putting it in the street as opposed to on the sidewalk.
Well, part of the thinking and the concern and the consideration is for the older folks in our neighborhood who might walk with a cane or might have trouble walking down the street. I mean, just thinking even my own family, my father has difficulty walking, and having additional containers and additional trash on the sidewalk is just another obstacle for those folks, for those senior citizens in our community, as well as for the younger folks in our community who are pushing baby strollers.
Because usually we have like what we call, I guess, an amenity lane where the tree pits are, and you know, like oftentimes there's whatever, like the street lights, the ribbon bike racks, whatever. That like square is not really passable by pedestrians anyway. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like where you would put your trash out on the curb to be collected anyhow. We're not talking about putting it in the middle of the sidewalk or like you know, like up against the buildings. Some I've seen some people store their trash there, but to be collected by sanitation, it has to be in that amenity zone anyway, by the curb. You know what I'm saying? Which is not, it's not, you can't really walk straight down the sidewalk on that square most of the time anyhow, because of the tree pits and other stuff.
Okay. At this time, unfortunately, we've got to cut the questions in terms of we do need to make sure that this is complete. The exec is going to have to vote on this. There will be an opportunity for further discussion with respect to the recommendations at the general board meeting. So I would just ask if you just, you're patient with us. We'll have a brief conversation to the exec to see if there are any questions, and then we'll move, there'll be an opportunity for a conversation at the general. Okay. Chris, were there any final, well, actually, I guess particularly for the exec, are there any members in the questions from the members of the exec with respect to this? Okay, seeing none, we'll actually have a vote on this a little bit later on in the agenda, and we'll either send it back to committee or we will move to have this go to the general board for discussion and vote. Okay, but Chris, thank you very much. And I guess in a few minutes we'll probably we'll be bringing this up for a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is one other recommendation that we have that I would like to very quickly touch on.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
It's okay. So in our meeting last Tuesday, the Community Board 9's Environmental Protection Committee also voted in favor, 5 in favor, 0 opposed, so unanimously, to recommend that CB9 fund the replacement or installation of 10 trash receptacles at pre-identified locations at a total cost of about $8,500. This gets a little bit to Suki's point in terms of did we think about also having larger trash receptacles, and these receptacles that we're proposing would be larger than what I call old school wire receptacles, and they would be the same type of receptacle that CB9 purchased in a couple of areas last year. This would just simply complement those high traffic locations. So we actually identified 20 high traffic locations that need additional receptacles or simply a larger receptacle, but we want to be mindful of the fact that CB9 worked on this issue last year. And so we narrowed it down to really the most 10 high priority locations. And then we went back a second time and even asked for our neighbors in the northeast quadrant of our district to share any locations that are important to them. But we didn't get anything that was actually in the CB9 district. So the committee surveyed the district and found these 10 locations to be high traffic areas. And I sent this recommendation as well as the recommendations for the council members regarding sanitation. I sent that to district managers. So if the district managers feel and staff feel so inclined, that might be something that folks would want to look at a later time.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Chris. All right. Okay, we do have 2 more committees. I want to make sure we get through these as well. So we will see, I see Health and Social Services, and then we're going to conclude with Economic Development. Fran, do you have a report for HSS?
Good night, everyone. Just want to touch on a few things. The minutes for this month. Dante, can you please send a recording to Melissa? She have not been at any of the meetings, and I don't think of minutes has not been submitted. Please send that recording to her. We also were looking to do outreach to senior centers, but because on our committee, we have no board members attending meetings. We only have community members who have been attending the meetings. So the outreach and the different things that we were looking to do, we are not able to do because I guess I can't do all on my own. We also want to do the community the community service centers in the community, not senior centers, but the community service centers in the community. I also would like for us to visit there to find out what's happening. And a lot of the seniors do go there. Some do go there on Saturdays, and some they have they go to the centers on a Thursday, some on a Friday. So I would like to connect with those centers. But as I said, there is something that we need to do to look into, because persons from the board who are assigned to the committee, they're not there. So persons from outside, they show more interest and they participate more than the persons from the community. The next thing, the last meeting that we had the last meeting we had, there was just lady who came from Ebbetsfield Middle School. And with Ebbetsfield Middle School, they have an Exceed Charter School and also the Jackie Robinson School. I think the three of them schools, they work together. She attended the meeting and she told me that she was very much interested. Someone who goes to the CB9 meeting told her about our committee, and then she came and then she put a presentation as to what she's looking to do. And I'm very happy to see from then to now, we'll be having a town hall, which will be held Tuesday, April 12th from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. It is a Campus Community Town Hall, and the theme is protecting your mental health through the pandemic. So we've had several meetings. I will be meeting with her tomorrow again. Tracy Sidesinger, who did come to the board, who came to our community, and I think she did present to the board as well as the psychoanalysis director, the executive director for New York City for Community Psycho. She's very interested in the committee. She has been coming to our meetings, and she's also very interested in participating in the wellness fair. And she's also have agreed to join the panel discussion for that town hall meeting, and I'm very happy about that. She's very very much so interested in working with our committee and with the community as well. So with that, we have a few panelists. We have the mental health counselor from Interborough Mental Health. We will also have a representative from Kings County Hospital. I'm in communication with them with behavioral health. They will let me know as to who from Kings County will be representing. Then we have someone, we have another EFMS social worker. I also touch base with one of my colleagues from at work who is a youth initiative person from my job, so he'll be there as part of the panelists also. And we have someone from the mobile crisis, Brooklyn Mobile Crisis team, who will be joining. And with that, this would be the last. I think we are looking to have to work with the other schools as well. So this one is more geared to the middle school, and then we will be moving to the others to do the very same presentation. And we'll also be touching on bullying and suicide and stuff like that. So I'm very happy, with this. And I know Primo did talk about, wanting schools to work with him. And I will therefore, because she have the students up to 14 years old. So I don't know if these are if this age groups Primo do work with them, but definitely with the health fair, I know he says that he's looking for schools and other organizations to work with him. I will pass on the names to him as well, her information to him, so she could touch base with, because she said to me that she do want to work with us and continue the dialogue and collaboration with CB9. after this. So I'm very happy with that. And she also wants to be part of the wellness fair. I know that Dante Carla, Miss Love, would have sent. She's part of the my committee, and then she's very much involved. And then she did call me to discuss the senior wellness event that she wanted to do with Carroll Gardens. So that's really taken place. It has been put together. It's tomorrow. She told me that she had already sent a text and an email to Mia. So I'm not sure if you all did send out a blast on that. So it's tomorrow from 2 p.m. until. So they have special senior event. They have free food. They have games. The live entertainment, bingo, much more. So once a month, we will have those events at the location for the seniors, and then on Fridays they will be going out on the town. So this Friday we are working with the 71st precinct to take them to BAM to see a movie. So hopefully, that that will work out. So so if Warren don't live at Carroll Gardens, but maybe we could accommodate him to send him. So this is what we're looking to do. We are working with we will be getting a list of the vendors and all the other organizations who were part of our wellness fair last year. To send them the save the date. We should have gone out already, but I'm short-handed. So I will call Mia and see what I can do. But I do need help with that. So I'm going to work with my committee. I'm going to call an emergency meeting with my group to see what we can do. So, but we have to send out save the date letter to all those organizations who participated, and we have more organizations because some of the other persons, they have their own network that they want to be part of. So there are a lot of persons who have showed interest, and I know even Mr. Almanor, he have other persons who would like to participate as well. So I would really like to get this letter, save the date letter, going to those people. Yes, Linda?
Could you please repeat the name of the lady from the Evertsfield Middle School and the Jackie Robinson? I didn't get her name.
Her name is Rhonda. Give me 1 minute, please. Her name is Rhonda Kornegay, Kornegay. So it's Rhonda RONDA.
Got that one.
Kornegay.
GAY. Thank you. If I miss it, I'll call you.
Okay. So this is what we have going on, but Mr. Chair and Mr. DM, I would really like something done when it comes to the committee because we have much to do and the manpower is very limited. I have spoken to Melissa, and I know she said that her workload has increased. She has a lot. Sometimes, 7 o'clock she's still in the office, and she was the person who would help with the minutes. And but she should do a great job with the minutes, putting the minutes together, and therefore the minutes has been lacking, when it comes to presenting the minutes. So I when you do send the minutes, send the copy to her, please send it to me as well. I'll see how much I can transcribe it so you can get a copy because it's not, it's something that needs to be done.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for the report. Are there any questions for the Chair of Health and Social Services?
Oh, I have one. I have a statement. It's Warren. Francesca, I love bingo.
Okay. Okay.
Just so you know.
Okay. Thank you much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, so we are now actually going to move on to
No,
Warren.
Fred, you need my report. You want my report. EGC?
So with all those being done, no, actually, one housekeeping item. I'm sorry, I see caller 347906. Could you just identify yourself for the record? Yes, hello. Caller, yeah, 347906 is the number. Could you just identify yourself for the record really quickly, if you can unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? This is Pamela Payne, Community Board Education Committee number 9.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thanks very much for confirming.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Warren, so we will conclude with you for committee chair report. Well, yes. Go ahead. You have,
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We had a good meeting the other night. There's a lot on the agenda. The first thing is the farm stand. The farm stand was Community Board 9 with a coalition has been established in front of Associated. It's received 3 years of funding, or 2 years. So we'll be having that 52 weeks a year for the next 2 or 3 years. And I will say, even in the winter, with just now I've been exposed to this with root festivals just available. We have a great turnout. So I implore everyone to, start going to the food stand. We see very few members of CB9 there. And it would be great for some support. The second thing is the May 22nd event. We're all ready for it. And we'll play a dual role with the executive committee. But we're waiting for certain information in terms of permits and locations. And once we have that, we are ready to move. The third thing is that in consultation with Dante, we have decided to do a business directory on our website. And as Dante pointed out, that we're not starting from zero. We have Diana's, we have others. So we're going to start putting that up. The one thing that the committee is very interested in is identifying the contractors in our community, the independent contractors, which I know there are many, and start to get them up there and identify them. That's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Warren. And that's great work you're doing as well, because I know this is, conversation in terms of there's a lot of people. Oftentimes we hear about contracts with the city or we're looking for vendors. People aren't registered. So, I mean, these are great opportunities to one, bolster community businesses in the district, and two, also get people in the pipeline so that way they can take advantage of some of the programs and hopefully even get city business to bring dollars into the district. But thank you very much for that. And with that, are there any questions for education? I'm sorry, for economic development. Why am I saying education today?
I could be education. It's okay.
I see Chris. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a comment. I mean, first, I think the idea of doing a CB9 wide fair is a great idea. I think Environmental Protection Committee would like to support and join no matter what, if we do our own fair or not. But we're very interested. I just want to register that there are members of our committee who are also very interested in having a location for the CB9 fair that would be perhaps in the eastern side of our district or in a park that tends to be neglected, or just a space where all members of our community, particularly those who are of lower income, have easy access to the park. So I just want to share that comment from the committee. Thank you.
Chris, thank you. Teresa was on our meeting last night, and she explained about what your plans were individually, and that's something that the chairman will approach. In terms of, we have 2 locations or 3 locations picked out. There are requests for park permits, and wherever we get the permits, we'll make a choice. So one is Prospect Park on Lincoln Road on a Sunday, which will have a lot of traffic and expose CB1 to the most number of people. Then there's Hamilton Mets Park on, I think it's Albany and East New York Avenue. And then there's the Old Boys High School Park. So we'll see where we end up. Right now, we've made the request and we'll see what the lottery brings us. But your comments are certainly registered and accepted.
Thank you.
And
You're
just to
welcome.
dovetail on that, and that's part of the reason why it's going to be critical for the chairs to get back to what your intended plans are, because depending on the size of the scope or how many people you're thinking about bringing, there may be locations that are preferable or might offer more amenities or be able to support better. So, but that's going to be critical in terms of we just need the feedback from the committees in terms of what the expectations are in terms of what they're doing. Okay. Are there any other questions for economic development? Okay, seeing none. Are there any other chairs, and I apologize in advance, are there any other chairs who have not given a report that I haven't called yet? Okay, it looks like we've got through all the reports for the chairs. Okay, and I want to thank everyone. Okay, this time we're going to move on to item 4, the district office check-in. Dante, do you have anything to report to the executive this time?
Yes, good evening. Yeah, my report will be relatively brief, definitely not as long as last month's. So I just wanted to reiterate that the office is open. If you know of anyone who needs assistance, I would encourage you to tell them to call the office and schedule an appointment rather than just walk in. Even you know, we may be on the end of the pandemic, we still want to minimize exposure in the district office. So if you know anyone who needs assistance, please have them call the office and schedule an appointment. I also want to encourage everyone to sign up for our social medias. So we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram. I also want to encourage everyone to sign up for our weekly e-blast. And then to direct people who you think who may need this information, direct them to the board office, give them the board office phone number, have them give us a call. We can sign them up for the weekly e-blast. I think that is extremely important for the board members. Well, we have execs here, but also board members to read through the e-blast. We just had an instance where someone was looking for information and it was in the e-blast in which that person did not read it. So, you know, when you get this information, please read it, read through it. And if you know of anyone who may need that information, forward it to them or direct them to the board office and we can sign them up. Next, from the Department of Design and Construction's weekly bulletin, there will be sewer replacement activities, which was mentioned a little earlier, at the intersection of Empire Boulevard and Franklin Avenue, starting yesterday until the 18th. And those activities should be during business hours of 8 to 4:30 p.m. The Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, in partnership with Brooklyn Community Board 9, we will be holding an NYC free tax prep and financial counseling webinar. That webinar will be presented by DCWP. It will be March 23rd from 6 to 7 p.m. via Zoom. We have already been disseminating the flyer and we will continue to do that. If you know anyone who may have any type of tax questions or may need this type of assistance, you can contact the board office. I can share the information with you so we can make sure that they're on for the webinar and we connect them to the services. Next, Neighborhood Housing Services of Brooklyn, NHS. We are partnering with them and we will be holding an eviction moratorium workshop. As you probably all are aware, the moratorium ended and a lot of people may be confused about what's next, what are their rights, what are their options. We will be holding that eviction moratorium workshop on March 29th from 6 to 7 p.m. via Zoom. NHS will be presenting the information. So if there's anyone that you know who may need this information, or yourself, you have any questions, please direct them to the board office. We are in the process of creating the flyer, and once we finalize that, we will blast that out, put it on social medias and on the website. Next, Brooklyn Community Board 9 will also be sponsoring, will be sponsoring a RAT Academy training in conjunction with some of the local elected officials and some local nonprofits. The training is free, and it's meant to be for building supers and staff, homeowners and tenants, and managing agents and companies. So, you know, we even through the other conversations here in the committees, you know, we know that rats tend to be a problem, and so all of us educating ourselves on how we can, you know, mitigate that and make our community much healthier. Please, if you know of anyone who would be interested in this, we have a flyer, so reach out to the board office and we can share that with you. Please blast it to your networks as well. Let's see. The board office will also be participating in SYEP this coming summer. I actually just had a conversation with the folks from SYEP today. So we're trying to build out exactly what that will look like in the board office. We want to make sure that we have students in the office who are going to gain substance from working in the community and in the board office. And so I just wanted to, you know, let you all know that Community Board 9 will be participating in SYP. Also, if you know of any organizations, if your organization, any nonprofits, they don't necessarily even have to be nonprofits. Any business, if you know of anyone who may be looking for, who would be interested in you know, having summer work and working with the students over the summer and the participants of SYP, they can reach out to myself. I can connect them with the folks at SYP. And then we can go on from there. I think it was earlier that Primo had said that, you know, they're looking to try to get 100,000 participants this year. So yeah, if you know of anyone who may be interested, please reach out to the board office. I just wanted to reiterate that, well, I wanted to make it clear and reiterate that the board application is closed. So for any issues pertaining to community board applications, those should be directed to Borough Hall. All right. Lastly, just a few more things. Just an update from the District Service Cabinet. If you guys see, you know, in your, you know, daily walks through the community, any locations where you're seeing illegal dumping, please let the board office know. We have a spot right there on the corner of President and Nostrand that sees a lot of activity. And so, you know, we want to curb this type of behavior. If you're seeing specific locations where illegal dumping is happening, reach out to the board office. We'll immediately send that location. If you have a photo, that's great. We'll immediately send that information to DSNY. It would be extremely beneficial if you could submit a 311 complaint, submit that 311 complaint, attach the photos, and we can send that over to sanitation to have them hopefully address that in a timely fashion. And then another update from the District Service Cabinet. This is actually from DFTA, which we have a new liaison, so that's fruitful for the cabinet to have a DFTA representative there. DFTA, their representative had mentioned that senior centers are open, but they seem to be more of a grab and go fashion. So, you know, whatever it is that they have at the senior center, seems right now it's more of pick whatever it is, what items you're going to retrieve up, and then, you know, leaving. But they and then they also have virtual programming. So senior centers are open, more of a grab and go, but they do have virtual programming. And then senior centers are still open, I believe, at 25% capacity. And then the last thing that I have is that currently in the board's operating budget, OTPS, as of today, there is $10,019.09. That is all for my report.
Okay, thank you very much, Dante. Are there any questions for the district manager?
Hi, it's Warren. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, Dante, what does that $10,000 mean? I mean, is that excess?
No, no. Well, the board doesn't have excess funds. The 10,000 means that, so essentially the board budget is broken up into three different categories. You have 001, which is personnel, which was obviously salaries is paid out of. 002, which is OTPS, which is what I'm describing. And that's basically all of our day-to-day expenses, month-to-month expenses. That's the money that we have currently uncommitted in that specific pot. And then the third pot is rent. So right now in that pot, that's what we have.
Okay,
So
so everybody knows all of our expenses are accrued, correct? So that $10,000 is discretionary money.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
All of our major expenses are accrued, rent, telephone, copier, all that stuff. So having $10,000 in OTPS, whatever, that means that that is excess money that we can spend during the next 4 months.
Understand your question. Yeah, so that number without a doubt will dwindle. We obviously have monthly contracts, and that will without a doubt will decrease. But then again, depending on what it is, in terms of what the board is looking for and what committees are looking for, I think that we'll be able to wiggle certain things, right? I don't foresee any problems as of yet. I don't have a specific number on what we have left, if there's an excess, but I can surely get that obviously before the end of the year. But yeah, that number that 10,000 without a doubt will decrease over the coming months. Yeah.
But that's money we can use to support activities like water, chair rentals, stuff like that.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay.
And then, yeah,
okay.
That is correct.
All right. My next thing is, what does SYP acronym stand for?
Oh.
Summer Youth Program?
Yes, Summer Youth Employment Program.
Okay. My third comment is, I just want to underline what you said about reading the email blast. One of our main missions is to disseminate information to our stakeholders. So if we who get that email blast, and especially board members, can take a look and see what's appropriate for their sections, we can disseminate that activity. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for the district manager? Okay, seeing none. Okay, thank you very much, Dante. And we're going to now move on in the agenda to item number 5, which will be the chairman's check-in. My report is relatively brief also for this month. Just a couple of items I wanted to make sure that we discussed, or at least that I brought to the board's attention. I'm sorry, bear with me 1 second. Okay, so first, with respect to attendance and expectations. So we are now in March. We have just a little bit more time to go in the board year before we go on hiatus for the summer. But with that being said, that means we have we have an extraordinary amount of work that needs to get done at this time as well. So the district office staff has been running numbers with respect to attendance at both board and committee meetings. We've already submitted that information to Borough Hall per request. And I need to remind members, I need to remind everyone that, they are monitoring this, the absenteeism. And if absenteeism is excessive, it can result, and it has resulted in the past, in members not being invited to return and be reappointed. There's a lot of people here who have a lot of talents. I would not want to see people not be invited because of these issues. Now, with respect to that, we understand if your commitments, if you're overbooked, overcommitted, and it definitely happens because members of the board tend to be very active in the community, it is more than understood. And to the point that the board can accommodate, we try to accommodate. but there is a floor in which we need to make sure that people are attending the board meetings. And I especially have to reiterate that people are attending the committee meetings as well. That attendance counts. That is specifically called out as part of the bylaws and included in as part of the absentee policy in the city charter. So if there are any members or committee chairs have any issues with attendance, please make sure you let us know. The district office and myself will work with you to see if we can resolve them. If it does not come to that, although this is a step that I do not want to take, we will have to take action in terms of removing members from committees. Particularly for board members, I have to advise and warn. Participation in a committee is mandatory. That is a requirement of being on the board. If you are removed from your committee post, that triggers other conversations that need to be had with respect to your tenure on the board. This is definitely an unpleasant conversation, not a one that we like to have, but it is necessary, especially because as a board, we try and make sure that the business gets handled at the board level, which means we require your presence at the board meetings, but especially because we know that the conversations are really driven at the committee level, it may almost even be more important that you're attending your committee meetings. So again, to the chairs, please make sure you're reviewing your rosters to make sure people are in attendance, and if you need any assistance, please to let the district manager and myself know, and we'll do whatever we can with respect to that. Dante already made the point with respect to the application window, unfortunately, has closed. So Borough Hall is in the process of reviewing at this time. So if there are any inquiries, those actually have to go to Borough Hall at this time. Okay, thank you very much for that. Next, I wanted to touch on the letter of comment. So we were scheduled originally to have a hearing prior to this meeting with respect to the proposed budgets. So we were, unfortunately, we had to postpone the meeting for today. That has been rescheduled to next week, Tuesday, before our board meeting. So we will be convening to have a public hearing regarding the budget at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, March 22nd. So please, all of you, mark your calendars. I would ask the committee chairs if there are any specific items that you wish to discuss or specific commentary with regards to your committee area, please to make note of that and be prepared to testify at the hearing. Again, and I think as has been noted, we do our best to try and make sure we disseminate the information through the e-blast. That will also happen. So it should be available through the e-blast. It will be available on the community board website. That's correct, right, Dante? It's available there?
What are you looking for specifically?
The agency responses?
Yes, it's on there. Correct.
Okay, so those are available on the...
If they go to the news, if they go to the news section, the first 3 documents are all the information that they'll need for the hearing.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, so this is our opportunity to actually weigh in and give a response to the city and to all the agencies with respect to what the priorities are and what their responses are. I think traditionally we've seen a number of the agencies come back and say we ain't got it and that's it, and it stays there. We want to be thoughtful with respect to the responses. We want to make sure that there's clarity, or we seek clarity wherever we need to. So please make sure you bring that, be prepared to do that. Send the word to your networks as well, so that way we can make sure we get as much public commentary as we can for next week. After that is done, then we'll be drafting a letter of comment, which will be going, which would go per city charter mandate. The last item I wanted to discuss, it's been mentioned a couple of times, is the district event. So we do have that date of May 22nd is the tentative date. May 22nd. As has been mentioned before, we are looking at a couple of venues. So the district office has already reached out with respect to reservations and getting permits for 3 locations. One of them would be Prospect Park near the entrance at Lincoln Road. One of the other locations is Hamilton Metz Park. And one of the other locations that we're looking at trying to secure as well would be Old Boys Track Field. So part of what we wanted to do is, 1, make sure we have a venue for this. 2, we also wanted to make sure that we had a variety of options as well. But this is where, again, we're going to be calling on the chairs to please make sure you're weighing in in terms of submitting your budget requests along with your resources and your anticipated, along with your anticipated participation. If you have vendors coming, please let us know how many are coming. If there are special requirements, if they need tables, if they need tents, if they need anything of that matter, we would need to know that information because that will help us in making a final determination with respect to which venue we're going to be using. Also, we're going to need that information because now is the time we need to engage with regards to getting resources. While, there is some funds in the district office, we've often found in the past that there are also limitations in terms of what they can do. And we also need to be prepared in terms of the emergency where we don't want to necessarily encumber all the funds in the one event and then the district office is in the lurch for other things that they need to do. So again, I believe that there's a deadline of March 18th. Please make sure you submit it by that time. If you have any questions, please reach out to Dante or to myself or to Warren Burke. Economic Development is playing point on this. So please make sure you reach out to any of the three of us if you have any questions. That is all I have at this time with respect to the chair's report. I do see the district manager has a comment. I do see Linda Watson-Moore as well. Dante and then Linda.
I just wanted to, continue. Continue and I will, okay.
So we'll come back to you.
Well, I just want to reiterate the deadline date was March 18th, as in this month, this weekend or so.
This Friday coming up, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Got it right.
Thank you very much. Mr. Almanor.
I have a question because for the last two executive meetings, we haven't got any report on the safety within the community district. I do know that the chair of the safety committee is not around. If he cannot attend, is there vice chair, somebody that would give us an idea what's going on safety-wise within this district? There are some people that are very concerned with whatever situation in terms of safety. What has been rampant a little bit in terms of safety, there's been a group of people going around taking people catalytic converters all over the place. You come to your car,
what are they doing?
Removing catalytic converter from cars. You will come to your car, you start it, all you hear there's a lot of noise, but we don't get anything. And I think this is my, I think we should have the precinct give us maybe on a 12-month basis the state of the safety within our community board, because a lot of we don't hear much anything what's going on, and I know for a lot of a lot of people they are quite concerned, and this is the kind of thing sometimes that make people leave the district. So I don't know, maybe our next meeting we should try to see if we get some kind of report from somebody in terms of whether I know police have ComStat, they keep all kind of statistics, what's going on in the district, especially now with the level of our the level of mental health issue that people have. I know in the city we're getting a lot of stabbing and shooting. So we get an idea what's going on in terms of safety within, what kind of statistic the 71st precinct is collecting, so they could reverse it. So we get an idea. I mean, there are places where camera may be needed or something like that, but I think we've been missing. For me, I've been missing it. I don't know for anybody else.
No, absolutely. Point well taken.
Yes, so thank you for that. The NYPD Community Affairs have went through a reshuffling, so I would usually report on crime stats that I received from the District Service Cabinet. I know that it looks like Sergeant Barada is back at the 71st. So what I can do is I will see if I can get the crime stats, and then I can report on it at the general board. And then maybe moving forward, once I get the crime stats, I'll just send it out to the entire board. And then that information will just be readily available for board members.
Yeah, and also in addition to that, I would probably say, so that's definitely a complaint that I was not aware of, and let's make sure that goes through public safety, and let's make sure that we loop NYPD with respect to that. along with a number of other quality of life issues that are going on as well. So I think that, all the points you said were very well taken. So let's make sure that we elevate that dialogue and have the conversations. So duly noted, and I'll make sure we talk to the public safety chair in terms of getting that information and setting that conversation up. Thank you very much for that. Okay, Fran, I see.
Excuse me, Fran.
And then
It's
I have
Warren.
my hand. I have my hand up. Warren, you need to know how to put your hand up and then just come in.
I haven't learned that yet.
Okay, so if
Warren,
I
I'll see you after Fran.
say that Detective Boyle did reach out to me sometime last week. I spoke to him because apparently they were having the meeting, the neighborhood meeting, and they did send out the wrong information. And I asked him whether he reached out to the board because the very same information that Mr. Almana just gave, we had a very long conversation, and he was telling me that the things that the community at large need to be made aware of. And he said that if you look out your window and you see a double parked car, pay very close attention, because what they do, they would come next to your car, especially Mitsubishi and special cars. They will park next to it, slip under the car that's parked. They will cut off the parts, and then it just take 3 minutes. So he said they had a video, and the video, it just took 3 minutes to get under the car, cut off the parts, get in the car and drive off. And the next day when you go to the mechanic, you will be paying for that very same part which belongs to your car. So he says that he says that for next month they will be holding a meeting next month. So they will get the Zoom information and everything, and they will send it to the board, so the board could send it out so that persons could get the information to come on to attend the meeting. I think that they have been meeting at the council have been meeting at the school, but I'm not certain as to how that information have been circling around for them, for the community to attend the meeting as well. But the neighborhood policing, they have been, the NCOs, they have been having the meetings. But last week he said only 9 persons showed up, because when he sent out the information, it was the wrong login, so too many people didn't turn on. Just to add a little bit more to that, on Lefferts Avenue between Bedford and Washington, one of the residents there, she and her son, they were sleeping, her husband was out, and the perpetrator entered through the back, went through her driveway, walked through her driveway, went through the back door, entered the house, stole her computer, looked on the key holder, took up her vehicle's key, went back outside, got into her car, and drove away with the car. And somehow or the other, she had a detector, so she was able to track the computer as to where it was, and she went to the apartment building. But apparently, the super said, "Yes, I know him." Because what happened, they found the car, and when they found the car, when they looked into the car, there was an ID in the car. So when she showed it to the super with the address and everything, she showed it to super said yes, but he was reluctant to give any information because he was afraid of retaliation. So apparently the image of the guy that they had on camera, he had on mask. So they could not really place his face with the ID that was found in the car. So much was not done to him. He was not arrested. They was able to get back the car, but then the gentleman, they were not there. So, but she's very angry because she says that she's been reaching out to the 71st precinct, and no one have been reaching, she's not getting anything from them at all. And this person, and she could have been dead, she could have lost her life, and that person is just out there walking the streets. So we have to persons in the community have to pay very close attention to, especially persons with private homes, and they have those flimsy doors and it's not secured, so people have to secure their homes in the community. It's getting very bad.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And that also brings up another issue with respect to, my understanding is they're rolling out the anti-gun units. The 71st precinct is one of the precincts that actually has that. So I think there is some information that should probably be provided to the board that we should be able to share with the community. But that's something that we'll bring up as well. Beverly, I see you. Nicholas, I see you. And then we're going to have to close on that, unfortunately.
May
Beverly,
I
go ahead.
just give one thing before you take Beverly? We had a conversation concerning the new policing thing that you're putting together. And then I did mention that to him as well, because Dante and I, we did attend the advisory committee, and we attended that once. So he said he would speak to the sergeant and get back towards Dante. But I told him this is something that he needs to sit with the board and have a discussion to know exactly. But apparently they are waiting to get more word from 1PP in order for them to address it. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. And actually, I apologize. Beverly, let me get back to you. I did say Warren was going to get next right after that, I believe. Warren, did you have a comment very quickly?
Yeah, basically, I agree with Nick 100%. And we really need to get information from both the police department and the fire department. And I think that we need to have the public safety committee be a little more active in this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Beverly, I'm sorry about that. You have next.
That's okay, friend. Francesca, I apologize for treating you like the public safety chair, but did they mention what to do? Because as you know, around us is everybody's parked on the street. Did they mention what to do about people double parking when you come out and you see that? Did they mention
So yeah,
that?
he said as soon as you see that, please pick up the phone and call 911. Yeah, she said to call 911, and if you have a contact at the prison, call them right away. But it says that it happened so fast because the video that he saw, it took like 3 minutes for the person to get out of the car, slide under the other car, do the curtain, and get back in the car and thing. And he said those spots cost like $1,000.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
So yeah.
All right. Thanks, Francesca.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. Okay. So with that concludes the chairman's report. So we are now going to go. Well, actually, I'll tell you, before we go into the agenda, there's the one item that we do need to consider as the exec. So we have a recommendation that's come before us from the Environmental Protection Committee. There were 5 recommendations. There's a letter that they've drafted with 5 recommendations. At this time, I will entertain a motion to forward the recommendations to the General Board for consideration. Do I have a motion?
So made.
I have it moved by Warren Burke. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have it seconded by Francisca Leopold. Thank you. All right. Are there any questions with regards to the recommendation? Any conversation? I do have one or two questions, actually. So I'm going to put myself. Is there anyone else who has any questions?
One of the questions I have, based on what I think Beverly addressed, was I'm so concerned with the parking, because when you look, I know they give permission to all those little cafes to have these little huts, and so many parkings have been taken up, and you don't get parking at all. So I think that Suki was addressing us to the ways that in order to eliminate not holding up an extra parking spot, as to what type of bids they should use. So I think my only concerns really, because we do need the bins, because it's just like too much garbage in the neighborhood. Persons are coming from other places, and sometimes when we see garbage in our neighborhood, they're not really sometimes from our neighborhood. Persons are driving, and they would stop, open the cars, and dump the garbage in the neighborhood and keep driving. So we do need the bins, but my only concern is to find a way as to how to place them in order to hold up another parking spot. That's it for me.
Okay. All right, Beverly, I see you, and then I'm going to put myself on the list as well. Beverly, go ahead.
Yes, that was the point I wanted to bring up too, because once businesses leaving their recyclables and their trash beside the street, each individual business, most people don't do anything with that. But just by example, as you know, Ebbetsville, they have bins. They have bins around the property. and there are people who do landscaping and throwing away mattresses and such. They pass by those bins and they empty that truck in those bins. So once we create bins, that gives people who don't want to pay for their garbage, wherever it is they're coming from, to permission to do it there. And between the extended dining area and those bins on the street, some of these streets are going to have 2 or 3 parking spaces left once we do that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the work that the community did, I really appreciate it. But that part of the proposal, I'm having serious issues with.
Thank you very much for that, Beverly. Along those lines, I think with respect to that, one of the things not necessarily, I think one, we want to make sure that as we monitor it, we have to remember that it's a question versus commercial bins where these are, in the commercial corridor. So this is for the garbage from the businesses versus, residential. So I think that's one of the things we'll have to look at. But one of the things that I think also is important to distinguish is that we're requesting a pilot. So this is not a full-blown deployment in the neighborhood. And I think that's probably a smarter way to go in terms of if you limit it to 1 or 2 locations where, yeah, we're going to do it, we're going to put the bins and we see what happens, that's the opportunity for us to learn in terms of what is the real impact, how does it affect, do we see that there are any issues, do we see dumping, do we see all these things, because that'll help us be smarter depending in terms of if we say this is something that's right for the district, if there are any modifications that need to be done, or perhaps it's not going to work here. But I think it's an excellent opportunity for us to learn something at this point, which may make it worth it. Depending, just from the numbers I heard from the district manager, I'm not sure if CB9 has the money to afford the 10, but which is the reason why I think it's good that we engage the council members to let them know that we're serious about that, so we can perhaps work in concert with them to identify resources to get those 10 spots there. I'm not sure if there's any money there. I'd be very surprised if there's money left in the CB9 budget, but let's see if we can get them to get some kind of commitment, or even perhaps see if they're able to work with sanitation to get those resources for us. That's all I have with respect to that, but otherwise I think that the recommendations are reasonable. And if there are any slight modifications, I think we should be able to get those done at the general board.
Excuse me, Fred, it's Warren.
Yes, go ahead, Warren.
Yeah, commercial bins have to be on their private property. They shouldn't be on the street. They shouldn't be on the sidewalk, etc. So I'm assuming this has to be for residential garbage only, but let's take a look at it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to call the question. So all those in favor of the vote to forward this to the general board for consideration at the March 22nd meeting, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right.
Aye.
Are there any members? Oh, thank you. Are there any members who are opposed? Please say your name for the record. Any executive committee for the also to be clear. Any executive committee members who are opposed? Please say your name for the record. Okay, if you are opposed, please say your name for the record. Okay, hearing none, Madam Secretary, please record none in opposition. Are there any members of the exec who wish to abstain from the vote? Please say your name for the record. Okay, call for a second time. Are there any members of the exec who wish to abstain from the vote? Please say your name for the record. Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please note that there were no abstentions from the vote. The motion carries. This will be brought to the full board for discussion and vote at the March 22nd meeting. Okay, thank you very much. We are now going to go into item 6. I'm sorry, item 6, which will be setting the agenda for the meeting on next week, Tuesday.
Hey, I have a question,
So,
Mr. Chair.
Yes, absolutely.
Is next week Tuesday an election for the 3rd district?
Is a special election? Oh, you know what? Is a
Special election is next week Tuesday.
Yeah.
Can I address that question, please?
Yes, go ahead.
There is currently actually early voting taking place right now. Early voting started Saturday and it will last until the 20th. The actual special election is March 22nd, and that is to replace the seat that was vacated by Diana Richardson, who is now the deputy board president. So we are actually in the midst of that special election now. The early voting is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And of course, March 22nd, it will be 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So yes, there is a special election going on right now.
Carmen, it's Warren. Where are the polling places for the early voting?
The polling places for the early voting is you either are assigned to the Armory or you are assigned to SUNY Downstate.
Thank you.
The Armory? That's not in the
Armory?
district, though.
Yes.
That's-
The
That's in the
Bedford Union
43rd?
Armory.
Yes.
The Bedford Union Armory. Remember, before it used to be the Brooklyn Museum, but because of the redistricting, the polling sites are more than likely all going to be looking different. Well, not all, some. So instead of going to the Brooklyn Museum, which is what everybody have been used to, it is the Bedford Union Armory, and then the other site is SUNY Downstate.
But Carmen, I thought that amended redistricting was in court. It's not in court anymore?
Those are the sites, my darling.
Those
If you
are
put
the
your
sites.
address, if you put your address where it says where do I vote, it's gonna send you. If you're on this end, but we go to the Armory. If you are on the other end, out there, Lennox Road, probably Hawthorne Parkside, you go to SUNY Downstate.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, the only reason why I raised the question is because I thought the Armory was in the 57th, not the 43rd.
That's where the
It
voting
is.
is taking place.
It is.
Okay.
The
Well, you know,
57 goes to Rogers.
Right.
That's why I asked
Okay.
Carmen.
Well,
First of all,
not to belabor the point though, but as it's a local, it's not necessarily even borough wide. I think if it was borough wide, we would have to consider that because it's a special election for that assembly district. I don't, and we're remote as well. I don't believe there's a conflict necessarily. If there are members who have a conflict with that, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, let me just remind people that even on voting or when you do the actual voting, some polling site has more than one assembly district voting out of it.
That's right. Okay, you're right,
So
Carmen.
it doesn't have to be in your district. There's polling site, I remember, I think even Evansville, Beverly, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
from
because
the
sometimes
50,
when
right?
we walk in,
Yeah.
you're right.
The
It's a
43rd
separation.
and other district, as well as the school, I think not 61, the one on Crown Street. There's different,
Yeah.
you could have 2 up to
61,
3
right.
assembly district voting out of one polling site.
You're right, Carmen.
So it
Sorry
doesn't
about
have to
that.
be in
Thank
the
you.
district.
Okay. No, fair enough. Okay. So the only thing I would say is though, but I think unless there's a major conflict, I think we're going to continue with our meeting. I'm not certain that we would need to move our
Mr.
meeting
Chair,
for that day.
Mr. Chair, based on what Carmen said, just to get back on what she said, as the information she gave is for the early voting, because the 22nd we have voting at MS 61 on Empire.
Right.
Yeah. So because
I'll
be working on that particular day. I'll be out there working from 6 to 9.
And also with IB. That's why I brought it up.
Okay, understood. So the only thing. All right. The only thing I would say is, barring an exceptional amount of board members who are absent because of work conflict, I think we would proceed with the board meeting then.
Okay.
Or do members of the exec feel differently?
Hey, it's Warren. I think we should
Yes.
research this and find out who's doing what. I know that a number of our members are active in that, but it could be 2 or 3 versus 9 or 10. So we should find out.
Okay, so here's what we can do. Let's proceed and we will set the agenda and we'll do some additional research. And if it's necessary that we take some additional action, we'll do that as well.
Correct. I agree.
Okay. All right then. Okay, so let's go through the agenda. So we are going to do the public session. This is the recommended agenda this time. So public session will include your call to order, along with rules of conduct.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate the executive committee's review of that first recommendation, but there is a second recommendation to replace or install 10 trash receptacles that the Environmental Protection Committee passed unanimously. Is that something that we need a motion? And we would love the executive board to consider that this evening. Is that something that we need a motion to consider?
I'm sorry, can you restate the motion? It's for?
So we had one recommendation, which you discussed about the letter and the sanitation, but the second recommendation that the Environmental Protection Committee came up with, which was in a different vote, was for the replacement of 10 trash receptacles in our district. We would welcome.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
we'd welcome
with
the
respect to,
executive committee. Sorry,
so
we'd
with that
welcome the.
respect to that, is that the funding from the CD9 office, or we're asking the council members to fund?
The Environmental Protection Committee requested that CB9 fund that.
Okay. Okay, so this I will. Okay, so this I'll request information. Dante, do we have? And you said this is approximately $8,000 we're looking at. Chris, what was your estimate? Was it about $8,000 or so?
8,500, I think.
Okay, Dante, does to your knowledge, does the board have the ability to support that kind of a financial commitment?
Right. Right now, I think that the board could make that financial commitment. Again, this will all depend on how the committees prepare for the end of the year event. But at this time, I think that we can make the commitment. I would. I mean, obviously I'm not on that side of the board, but if there's a way to where the motion could kind of be, if the board has the funds to do it, then we, maybe we can't get 10, we can get 8, whatever it may be, whatever financially is feasible, so we don't have to like come back and forth. That would be extremely helpful. But I think at this time that I think the board has the funds to do it.
Hi, it's Warren. I respectfully disagree with that. You reported previously we have $10,500 for 4 months. What I suggest is we return this to committee and not to vote yes or no, but to keep it on the agenda and see how the funds are from the CV9 budget. Am I misstating something?
Dante, is it possible, once before when you did a presentation, you quoted or stated that it's possible sometimes to redistribute distribute funds from one funding source to another. Is that what you plan to do when you said you think it's possible to make a commitment?
Yeah, so what I would have to do is I would have to see exactly what we have left over in 001, and then we could make the assessment. Like it's already been mentioned in 002, which is OTPS, our operating, we have about 10,000. But if we have any left over in personnel services, then that funding, which I don't have the exact number right now, could be moved over and used for obviously the board's endeavors.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's why you
I
were
agree
comfortable
with,
in saying it's possible.
yeah, Beverly,
Okay,
I
got
agree
it.
with you totally.
I'm
But I
sorry.
just don't know I said I agree with you totally. but I think we should send it back to committee until Dante secures the fund, because once the board votes on it, it happens.
I have to just add something, which is that the Environmental Protection Committee has been discussing, deliberating, and debating this along with the other recommendations since December 2021.
Right.
We raised this earlier with the general board meeting in January of this year, and we took on many considerations and we refined the proposal. And one of the things that we did was we split the proposals. The Environmental Protection Committee we think that this is a serious issue, and we on our own have applied for a grant that we won't know about until the late summer. But we on our own have applied for a grant because we're mindful of the resources that CB9 has. But we do think that it's important that CB9 funds this. This is something that was unanimously passed. And I would just reiterate that we found 20 high location areas, and we, being mindful of CB9's resources, narrowed it down to just 10 in order to complement the great work that CB9 did last year in terms of replacing trash cans.
And also, too, there was a motion made in the past, tentatively. There have been tentative motions. If this happens, then this happens. If this doesn't happen, then this doesn't happen. So it is possible.
Exactly.
I understand, and I agree. The Christians team have been more than patient with us in asking questions and pushing the envelope and demanding they revisit and stuff like that. Now we're at a point where the responsibility is ours. So since we have done tentative motions before, this would be a good time to engage in that once again. Dante, look at it and go, okay, if we can do this, then this happens. If we can do that, then that happens.
You know,
I
the
certainly
only reason
support
why,
that,
well,
but I
Thank
gotta
you.
tell you, we can't spend money we don't have. That's all.
I agree.
you know,
I agree.
along those lines, yeah, and I think that's the question. I'm not even sure if it's money we do or don't have, and especially because we have the district event coming up. I'm not sure if we want to necessarily say we're going to make the commitment of 8,500, depending on what resources the board may have to commit to the fair as well. And plus, there might be some other expenses in terms of, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Zoom, any licenses, any office upgrades, anything we need to do, if there are web costs, if there are other things that we're going to do. The only thing I would say is that it makes sense. We don't necessarily have to, and this is definitely not, with respect to the committee. We may have some time in terms of, we have until that April, May to say, okay, well, listen, you know what, I think our financial picture is a little bit more clear, because I think the setup time or the order time, once you put the purchase order, Dante, how long does that take?
Okay, well, that is, there's no answer for that, because there's just a lot of actors that go into processing funds for the city. It is important to note that these receptacles, the ones that we did purchase last year, they are made in Canada, so they will have to go through customs, and that will take longer.
Okay, but
I also want to point out those receptacles were out of the $40,000 additional budget that was given to us. And I'm certainly for the receptacles, but I don't see how we can even recommend a vote that we don't know we have the money for. And that's supporting the idea.
And just as you say that, Dante, so I guess what I'm looking for is, when would we have to make a commitment for this? Do we need to make a commitment now, or is there additional information we should have before we make the vote? And Chris, I see your hand. We're going to recognize you in one moment.
I mean, I honestly would leave that in the hands of the executive committee. Yeah, I mean, I would have to leave that into the hands of the executive committee.
Well, part of the question is, I mean, how long?
May. Fred, traditionally it's May. It's May.
Right. Well, because the questions I have even in terms of procurement. So, right. I mean, but the question I have is, even with the procurement process, if we order it in May and we pay for it in May, but we don't get it until June, can we still pay for it, or July 1st? Does it still count on the books? Okay, so it's something that we
Yeah, it
need,
has to be
it needs to be delivered
delivered.
here.
Correct. By June
Okay.
30th.
And do we have any idea or indication in terms of how long it would take for it to get here once we place the order?
I think I started the process last year around mid-March. That was just me coming in fresh, not knowing how that process worked and begging that they get here on time. So I would say probably the whole process would take 2 months.
So we need to make the amendment by what? Do we have until April? Or do we need to make a decision now?
May.
Well, if you're saying May,
understand.
we need about 2 months.
Yes, yes, you could technically do the April general board. You have all of May, all of June. As soon as,
Right.
of course, as soon the
As
best.
long as it's here by June 30th, we're good.
Yeah, Fred, delivery doesn't matter.
No,
It's
delivery is
not-
actually
It does.
extremely.
It does.
The delivery is the most important because if we don't receive the service before June 30th, it goes into next fiscal
okay.
year. Yeah, extremely.
That's
I
the question.
I stand corrected. Okay.
Yeah, you could do the April. Yes.
Okay, Chris, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I know you had your hand up for a moment. You've been patient.
The Environmental Protection Committee is very excited for the potential of a CB9 fair. That would be a great thing that brings together our community and the varied work and passions that our community has. That said, we have already unanimously passed a motion for the funding of these garbage cans. So my question for those on the call is, what budget requests have we already received for the CB9 fair? And has those budget requests gone through the process of being passed in the committees in order to put forth a request?
You know, I'd like to answer that. Chris, if we've already approved it, there will be no fair. So that's the answer. Because we don't have the resources. I didn't remember we already approved it, but once approved, we have to follow through.
Yeah, I think my question is, what budget requests have we received already from committees?
We
I
haven't
understand.
received any. Yeah, Chris, the fair's gonna cost $7,000-8,000 with everybody there for the infrastructure. And we certainly want to get some sponsorship, but as a member of the executive board, I am certainly not willing to gamble knowing there's no pillow. So if we've already passed this, then we have to go back to the drawing boards.
So have
It's
we
already
received
passed
budget-
what? I don't understand.
No, in
No,
other
hold
words,
on, hold
Chris
on.
is saying that we've already passed by the garbage cans.
No,
So
we
if the
didn't.
full board, well, that's what
No.
I'm asking. If the full board has passed it, then that's it. If the full board hasn't passed it, then the
hasn't.
money is still there. You know what I'm saying, Bev?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. To my recollection, it
Okay.
hasn't gone in front of the full board.
Well, Chris just said
Right.
straight out that we've already passed it.
No, we haven't.
So all I
No,
need is
no.
definition.
No. But to be clear, I think Chris's point is not so much that the board has passed anything, but his committee has already said that this is something they want to do. So if
Right.
we're
Oh,
competing
okay.
against other things, he will know, well, what else is, the other committee said that they wanted to do.
Okay,
But-
I
and I think
misunderstood.
Yeah, and Chris, and I think that's part of the question in terms of there are a lot of unknowns. We're not sure what they are yet because the deadline is Friday for the committees to come back with what their expectations are. So in terms of the total budget for the fair, we don't know. And I think there are a couple of unknowns that it might be that will cause some unreadiness, at least speaking for myself in terms of saying we're going to commit $8,500 right off the bat. Because I'm not sure how much we would actually need the board office to commit. We're definitely looking at having some fundraising opportunities as well in terms of trying to get support for the fair. And who knows, possibly, let's see if we can even do that where it's like, we might be able to get some funds as well that we could, support something like that. The only thing I would ask is for your patience, I think it might be better for us to consider the item as part of next month because I think Dante has some information and I would ask you if you could get information with respect to, how long it would take, get the exact cost that, you would, get the exact price quote from the vendor, and get an idea in terms of when you need to submit this order by in order to make sure that we're able to get it in this fiscal year to pay for it. So Chris, I think that the takeaway would be, it's not, we're not going to dispose of it, or we're not going to make a decision today. By, I believe, the April exec meeting, we'll have the information we need to make sure that we can either fully support or we can make decisions from there, that standpoint.
And I just want to add to that. Chris, this is not from the EDC. This is me as first vice chair. You're asking us to spend 90% of our available funds. So we need to really see what's going on, forgetting about the fair, and, see where we are. Do you agree with that?
What I think is, it's for us, the Environmental Protection Committee, it's not about the amount of funds. It's about, we voted unanimously on this issue. We have also, separately from that, we have done our own grant, we have requested our own grants, separate from that. So we're speaking in matters of fact. We're not speaking in hypotheticals and unknowns.
No, you are speaking hypothetically.
I'm sorry, Warren. I'm sorry.
Warren,
no, just hold on a second. No, hold on a second. Chris, you have grants out. You don't know if there's going to be an answer or not.
Warren,
no,
please,
Fred,
please.
Stop it, please.
Warren, Warren.
No, he already
Warren,
stated his points.
He is in the middle of his point.
No.
He has the floor. Warren.
No, the
Warren,
point
can you please allow him to speak?
Warren. Chris, please finish your point.
The Environmental Protection Committee is excited to participate in the CB9 fair, and we think it's going to be a great fair. We have also been working overtime, many nights, many deliberations, discussions, and debates, and we have already done the work. We have passed the motion, and separate from that, we have applied for grants. We're not speaking in terms of hypotheticals or unknowns. This is the stuff that we know. And for that reason, we would be most grateful for the consideration of a funding of this and a vote or motion to entertain a vote. And perhaps the vote is that we agree to fund this on the condition that we have the available funds. We can add that condition. But we have done a lot of work on this over the course of several months. And we are not in a position right now to go back. I'm not in a position to go back to my committee and say, please hold, wait a little bit more, because we've been working, they've been working very hard. So we'd be most grateful for a motion to entertain a vote to conditionally fund this work, which would complement the great work that CB9 did last year.
And well understood and appreciated in terms of the work that your committee has done. But at this point, I think that, again, speaking for myself, I think that we also, as an executive committee, have to consider the entire board with respect to that, in terms of, unfortunately, there's only but so many, there's only but $10,000 that are there. And we need to make sure, especially with this project looming with respect to the fair, the board has already kind of made the commitment towards we're doing this, and there may be some some funding required for that. So I think that we would be remiss in saying we can make that commitment first without fully understanding the financial picture. There's some additional information that's going to have to come in from the other committees with respect to the resources required. There's some additional information that's going to need to come in from the district manager with regards to the procurement process and any other information. So, and it's not a matter of we're asking you to go and tell the committee that we're asking them to wait. It's a matter of that as an executive committee, we need to do our fiduciary responsibility in terms of doing the due diligence to make sure we have full understanding, so that way when the board considers it, it has a full understanding of all the options that we have. Unfortunately, that's economics. It's scarcity. It's there's a lot of good things that we want to do, but only but so much money we have to do that we can do things with. So that's one of those things I would just ask you to communicate that with your committee in terms of it's being considered, it's not being dismissed, but we're trying to make sure that the due diligence is done in terms of making sure we can fully commit the way that's being requested.
I hear that, and the only other thing I'll just add is that we had also approximately 60 days ago submitted a budget request for our own environmental protection fair, which now, because of the CB9 fair, we are now reconsidering so that we can potentially join fully in the CB9 fair. But I'm just bringing up this example to say that this committee has been doing a lot of great work. We've been submitting the requests, and you know, we're not dealing with hypotheticals, whether it's regards to our fair or this proposal. We put forth the requests, and our request for the environmental protection fair, we may end up putting that aside in large part because of the funding issue in CB9. So we would be most grateful next month for a motion and a vote in favor to fund just 10 receptacles, which again, we had identified 20 locations, but in an effort to be mindful of the finances, we narrowed it down to just 10.
Understood and appreciated. And you know, and next month I think we'll be in a position to have that conversation. I'm sorry, I do see Fran, I see Beverly, but then we're gonna have to move on unless. Go ahead, Fran. Go ahead.
Beverly hand was up before me, before mine.
Okay. Okay, very well. Beverly and then Fran.
Thank you, Francesca. Am I clear? Am I understanding this properly? Is that we are going to put forth the motion, a conditional motion, before I make my next statement? Is that what we're doing? After what Chris just said, we're putting forward a conditional motion, or we're waiting till April?
The thought is to wait until April. Nobody's put a motion on the floor yet. But at least my recommendation personally is to wait until April until we have a little bit more information.
Okay, and my second, and this is just a comment, all of us are doing hard work. All of our committees are, housing is, all of our committees are, and we're not negating the hard work that Christian's committee has done. But at the same time, if you, to make the decision to move forward with the garbage cans, that means each one of the chairs in this room would have to go back to their committee and say, we no longer have budgeting for the fair. So that puts us in an awkward position as well. So all of us understand what's happening here, because money makes, my family goes, you can only spend $1 once. So in that, we all have to wait and see. We have to wait and see if the funding is available for the garbage cans. And if it's not, the negotiation is going to be made. Dante will figure out a way to be flexible to move funds from one place to another. And so, and the fair has already been committed to. And all of us chairs have already told our committees, what are we going to do? What is the event and what is the cost? Our committees have been tasked with that. So all of us have, in doing this right, the responsibility is spread evenly. In doing this for one group, then all of us would be, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be done evenly. I don't know how else to say it. It's just, all of us are in a precarious position right now. So I think I agree with the tentative decision of go back. Yes, we are. See what Dante is able to find. I agree with that.
Thank you for your comment, Beverly. Fran.
Hey, it's Warren. I just want to make one point. Hold on one second, Fran. That, Chris, you don't have to let go of what you're doing with the fair. You could just integrate it into the major fair, which one is doing. So the work is not for naught. The work could be expanded and more appreciated. Thank you.
That's what I'm trying to do, Warren. But
Fred, Warren has to stop doing it.
That's what I'm trying to do, Warren. But my point in mentioning that we had planned a fair is just to say that we had passed the motion within our committee and we had submitted the budget request approximately 60 days ago. So we theoretically could have known already that we could have allocated funding for that fair, but we didn't. And now this is a similar situation where we have already passed the motion. We've put in a very clear recommendation and request to fund these garbage cans, but now we're going to put it aside again for the large affair. That's my only point. But I understand that
No,
it's not taken off the table, and we'll be most thankful for consideration next month.
yeah, Chris, just for
Okay,
different
thank you, Chris.
definition,
Warren,
your
we're not gonna
request
go.
for funds,
Warren,
please let me
Warren,
finish.
Warren,
Your request
Warren,
for
we're not
funds,
gonna,
I'm hanging up. This is ridiculous, Fred.
Warren, thank you very much. Fran, your last point, and then we're gonna finish the agenda.
Okay, I think that go ahead, and I just wanted to mention to Chris is the fact that it's not that the committee is not supporting what you're doing, they're supporting what you're doing, but it's a question. And I think we spend too much time, and it's just as simple as whatever that you're doing, we're in support of it, but it's just the funding that is the question in there. And just to give Dante time, so I know you keep saying the motion was passed, and you're looking for it to go for next month. But I think they have explained it in detail as to the reason why we should just hold on. It's not pushing out, it's supported. It's just a matter of trying to make sure the funding is there to support it. That's it. And I think that we just need to move on, because I've been sitting for too long and my back is hurting me.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, now I'm getting old. We voted on the first recommendation. That's correct, right? That's getting forwarded? All right, wanted to make sure I was clear with that. All right, so we're going to move on. So now we're creating the agenda. So public session, call to order, rule of conduct. Presentation. Are there any presentations scheduled for the March meeting, Dante?
That depends on if you all are going to have, I think, I can't remember her last name, but Monica, she spoke before the Health and Services Committee in November. She is looking for a letter of
Aaron, right?
Yes, yeah, she's looking for a letter of support from the board.
Okay, is there a recommendation from the Health and Social Services Committee?
I support.
The committee voted on that?
Yes.
Yes, back in November.
Okay. Okay, so that's fine.
Actually,
I
I believe the executive committee may have voted on it, but
it was presented to the executive committee and it was voted on as well. We had two. We had, as a matter of fact, I think we have 3 persons who came. We had the RN, and then we had Tracy, Side Finger, and I think somebody else, and it was presented to the executive last year.
Okay, so how do we dispose of that? That's not so. What was the final disposition? So we didn't vote on it. Was there additional information they need to do? What happened?
Yeah, she was supposed to get more information, come back and do the presentation for the board.
Okay. All right. So let's put her down. Okay. So let's put her down for the presentation for the board at this time then. All right. So we'll put her down for we'll slide down for the presentation. Liquor licenses. Are there any licenses being considered by the board at this time? That were considered by public safety?
Only 2.
Mm-hmm. And they voted in favor?
They did.
Okay. 2 SLA applications. All right. Then we go to public commentary. Then we will go to acknowledgements. Then we are going to go to, business session. Then we are going to, in business session, we will have roll call, approval of minutes, we will have approval of minutes, committee reports, hold on. Ms. Watson-Lord, you said you're not going to be here on Tuesday?
Yes, unless I get out of the polling station.
Okay. We had
Well,
tabled the election. We had tabled the election to this month. Are you going to be able to, so you're offline until what, 9 o'clock you said?
yeah, but I think, well, yeah, well, I think over by 161, they don't really have a lot of problems, so I could be up by 9:30, but enough times I'll be out 11 o'clock, but I could be up by 9:30. Now,
Okay.
what I could do, even although I might not be able to take the minutes from the beginning if you want to, me and my multitasking, if somebody could start and then maybe around 9 when I think then I would join, even if I join by my phone.
Okay, so we'll do that. So we're going to put on there after committee reports, treasurer election.
Treasurer?
I'm sorry, did I say treasurer? I'm sorry, secretary election. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Secretary election. We will put down district manager's report. I'm sorry, under committee report, we're going to put secretary election, and we will also put recommendation from environmental protection. So we'll consider it under committee reports.
Okay.
EP, all right. Secretary election, district manager report. Then we're going to have chairman's report. Then we will have old business or unfinished business. We will have new business. And we will have adjournment. All right. Is there anything missing from this agenda that we need to do during the March meeting? Fran, I see your hand.
my hand is not up. Oh, let me lower it. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, after
Yeah.
secretary election, you said recommendation of.
Oh yeah, recommendations
it's the
for environmental
CD9.
protection.
Oh, I just want to know if you could call the word recommendation. That's right.
Yeah, recommendation of environmental protection committee. So we'll vote on the recommendation we just approved.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other additions that need to be made to the agenda? Okay, seeing none. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
Approved.
I'm sorry, was that Fran? Okay. Moved by Francisco Leopold. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, Beverly. It has to be one of the exec members.
Oh, sorry.
No worries, no worries. I call for a second.
Yes, I don't see Mr. Leopold, so I'll do second. Second by me.
Okay, Ms. Watson-Lord. Oh, you know what? Actually, technically speaking, you're not,
yeah, I
you're
can.
interim, so yeah.
Right.
Mr. Almanor. Mr. Almanor, do you?
Right.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
So let's record it. So I do see a second from Mr. Almanor. Okay,
Right.
so, all right, it's been moved and seconded. Any unreadiness? Hearing none, we call the question. All those members of the executive committee in favor of approving the agenda as stated, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any members who wish to vote against? Please state your name for the record. Hearing none, are there any members who wish to abstain? Please state your name for the record. Hearing none, the motion carries. The agenda is adopted. Okay, at this time, is there any other business for the executive committee? Okay, hearing none. At this time, at this time, I'd like to thank everyone for your participation, for your patience. I know we've had a number of technical issues today, but we're looking forward to seeing you next week. If there are any members who are going to have conflicts, please make sure you let the board office know as quickly as possible, so that way we can make sure we note your absence, and if necessary, we can excuse it as well for the record.
Please note my absent
that,
for the 22nd.
Say again?
Please note my absent for the 22nd.
Well, send me an email. We'll respond. Keep it on record. Yeah, we'll have it. Absolutely. Okay. So with that being said, thank you again, everyone. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing majority, we stand adjourned. The time is now 9:48. Everyone, thank you very much. Take care. Stay safe.
Same to you. Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night, everybody.
Good night. Good night.